Alright guys, Darren from FBA Elite and welcome back to another video. Now if you're thinking about starting a business to sell a product on Amazon, or perhaps you are already selling on Amazon and are just looking for new products to sell, one of the questions that I come across frequently is whether you can actually sell that product on Amazon. Because just because one product is being sold on Amazon does not mean it should be, and it does not mean you'll be allowed to sell it either. So what I want to do in this video is give you 3 different methods that you can use to find out whether there are any restrictions on a product before you invest in that product, before you spend thousands of pounds and place an order on a product that you then find out down the line you are unable to sell or there are certain restrictions on. Now I'm going to give you 3 different methods, and the third method is a brand new method that I discovered this week. I haven't seen this anywhere else on YouTube, so hopefully you guys will stick around to watch that method, as I believe it is currently the most powerful way of finding out whether there are any restrictions on a product. Now the first thing that I want you guys to take a look at, and that is the Amazon help pages. Now I know this seems like a really obvious recommendation, however there are 4 particular areas that you need to be aware of and 4 things that I want you to look into. The first one is whether the category that you plan to sell in is gated or not. Now if the category is gated, it doesn't mean you can't sell in that category, it just means that there may be additional hoops for you to jump through to be able to sell in that category. Now some categories it is more difficult to get ungated than it is with others, so make sure you do as much research as you can. Also, some of the top level categories that you will see listed on that link that may show as ungated, actually there may be some subcategories that you can't sell in. So just because the top level is ungated doesn't mean that the subcategories are ungated as well. The next thing you need to be aware of, there are some products on Amazon that you cannot sell regardless. So these are called restricted products, and you cannot sell them regardless of what documentation you provide to Amazon. You will still not be allowed to sell them. So make sure you click on that link and do some research into restricted products and ones that you definitely cannot sell on Amazon. The next thing, there are products that are restricted but you are allowed to sell if you can get additional approval. For example, this might include things such as consumer electronics, maybe toys and games, maybe health and beauty products. So you may not be able to sell them from the off, however, you can apply to sell them, and Amazon may request some documentation for you or request some other things from you that will help you to be allowed to sell those products. So see if a product is restricted. If it is, see if it can be sold if you can get additional approval. And then finally, you have the dangerous goods or hazmat goods. Again, these are products that doesn't really mean you cannot sell them. It just means that Amazon might ask you for more information. So it might be, for example, a material sheet. I think they call it an SDS sheet. So if you're selling something dangerous, maybe for example, a power bank which contains a battery, then they might ask you for a sheet showing the exact materials used within that product. So make sure you keep all of those 4 things in mind. Are the categories gated? If so, what are the requirements for getting ungated? If the top level category is ungated, is the sub-level category that you plan to list in ungated as well? So make sure you check that. Are the products restricted? So will you not be able to sell them on Amazon regardless of what you do? Maybe it's a product that requires additional approval, in which case find out what sort of things Amazon might need. Then finally, is it potentially going to be classed as dangerous goods or hazmat goods, where Amazon are definitely going to require more documentation to actually sell that product. Another great way of finding out whether a product is restricted or not, and that is to actually create a product listing within Seller Central. So I want you to go into Seller Central, find the category and subcategory that you plan to list your product in, create that product, look at some of your competitors, get all of the keywords that you plan to use, do your keyword research first, so that when you create your listing, it's as close to the real thing as possible, at least from a text perspective. So when the Amazon algorithms are scanning your products, if there's any keywords that might get your product flagged, it will get flagged up in that week or 2 that you've got this dummy listing live. And then if there are any restrictions, hopefully Amazon will contact you and you'll know what you'll need from your supplier before you actually place that order and invest thousands of pounds in stock. Because the last thing you want to do is place a big order, get all that stock here, and then find out there's a restriction in place. So maybe consider doing that. Maybe consider setting up a dummy listing. Maybe even if you want, send a sample into Amazon, try selling that sample, and maybe even run a little bit of PPC. The closer that your dummy listing replicates your final listing, the better chance you have of finding out whether there are any issues with selling that product on Amazon. And finally, and this is the point that hopefully you guys have stuck around and have been waiting for, and this is for me the best way of currently finding out whether a product is restricted on Amazon, and that is to use Amazon's very own view selling application page. Now I do not know how long this feature has been in Seller Central. If it's been in there a long time, I have no idea how I missed it. However, for me, this is definitely one of the best ways of finding out whether a product may have issues selling it when you actually come to sell it on Amazon. So let me take you over to Seller Central and I'll show you an example of how this might work. So this is the selling applications page, which is accessed by going to Catalogue and then view selling applications. Like I said, I don't know when this feature was added. It might have been in months and I've somehow missed it. However, it is super powerful and I'm going to show you how it works. Now, if you had applied to sell products that were restricted, you'll have a list of your applications here. However, the real power comes from the search. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the ASIN of a power bank. You know, power banks, with being consumer electronics and containing batteries, should have some sort of restriction in place. So I'm just going to pop in the ASIN there. And what we should see is when we go show limitations, it says here, you need approval to list charges. So straight away we know there is some sort of category and product restrictions in place to actually sell this product. However, one thing you will find with Amazon, it is inconsistent. Now, it doesn't just apply to restricted products, that applies to a lot of different areas. But today I'm just going to focus on restricted products. So if we take a different power bank, which again is very similar. So this, for example, is a 10,000 milliamp power bank, and this one is exactly the same sort of thing. If I take their ASIN and then pop that in the search, this one, once I select new, show limitations, doesn't say there are any restrictions on the category itself. So you don't have to worry too much about this because you're not actually going to be selling them in that condition. So it goes to show that you can look up the products, but also you can get inconsistent results. So make sure you look up a handful of any products that you're interested in to see if there's any variations as to whether you're allowed to sell the product or not, or some of the potential limitations that may be in place. You can also use this tool to search for keywords instead of individual ASINs. For example, if we search for posture correctors, which I know is a very popular classic FBA product, which I normally advise people not to sell as it is restricted, when we click through to this and click on show limitations, it will show you here that you need approval to list in medical supplies products. So if you do want to sell posture correctors, there will be either additional documentation or additional hoops to jump through to be able to sell posture correctors. So hopefully you guys think this tool is really useful. If you do, make sure you hit that like button. That would be very much appreciated. However, despite how powerful this tool may appear to be, it still does not cover everything. So for example, if we go back to the power bank example that I showed you to start with, this did not mention anything about the fact this may have any hazmat restrictions. However, if we take this ASIN here and go to the dangerous goods lookup page on the help pages, which is a link I showed you earlier on in the video, you can actually do an ASIN lookup to see whether the product is classed as hazmat product. So if we do lookup ASIN, and we do a lookup ASIN there, click next, and pop in the ASIN from the power bank. It's just going to check the status of that product. And it says here, this product is dangerous goods. And like I said, this doesn't mean you can't sell it. It just means that there may be additional documentation required to sell that. For example, if you scroll down here, it says, one of the things you need to do is to provide a complete, correct, and up-to-date safety data sheet, an STS, and exemption sheet. So depending on what product you're selling will depend what you need to provide to Amazon to allow you to sell that product. So even if the search that I showed you previously doesn't show any limitations, it's still worth doing the dangerous goods lookup to see if there are any restrictions on selling that product. So I hope you guys have found this video useful, and hopefully you're in a much better position to research a product fully to ensure that you're going to have no issues when you come to sell it later down the line. If you did find it useful, I'd really appreciate if you could take a moment, scroll down, hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos like this that are open and honest about Amazon FBA, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to discuss Amazon FBA with over 1,000 other people just like you who are just starting Amazon FBA or are currently selling on Amazon, make sure you head over to fbaelite.com, sign up, it's completely free, and I'll see you guys on the forums.